What happens when a smug, arrogant judge dares to mock not one but two women in his courtroom, assuming his authority is unshakable? Little did he know, these weren't just any women. They were elite U.S. Army veterans who were more than prepared to rewrite the narrative. What followed left the courtroom utterly stunned, with an air so charged you could feel it in your chest. The moment the courtroom doors swung open, it was as though time slowed down. Conversation ceased, and all eyes turned toward Ebony and Ivy Coleman. Identical twins, yes, but their presence alone set them apart from anyone else in the room. Ebony, dressed in a crisp white blouse that radiated confidence, and Ivy, donning a sleek navy blazer that seemed tailored to perfection, walked with a deliberate stride. Each click of their heels on the polished marble floor echoed like a drumbeat, commanding attention and demanding respect. They weren't here for theatrics. Their goal was simple: to challenge an unjust eviction notice. Straightforward enough, or so it seemed. But the courtroom, much like the man sitting smugly at the plaintiff's table, oozed complexity and veiled hostility. The landlord, a balding man with a permanent sneer etched onto his face, leaned toward his lawyer and muttered something under his breath. Whatever he said, it elicited a smug grin that could ignite anyone's temper. As the twins approached their table, a ripple of murmurs swept through the gallery, a mix of curiosity, judgment, and disbelief. Judge Randall Grayson, infamous for his abrasive demeanor and skewed rulings favoring the privileged, brought the room to order with a sharp crack of his gavel. His piercing glare scanned the twins, oozing disdain, as though their very presence was an affront to his courtroom. When he finally spoke, his voice dripped with condescension, every word designed to belittle. "Ladies," he drawled, elongating the word as though it left a bitter taste in his mouth. "Do you think dressing up like you're at a corporate seminar is going to win you any favors here? Perhaps you've confused this courtroom with a fashion show." The gallery chuckled, low but biting, like a slap disguised as laughter. Ebony's fists clenched under the table, her knuckles white with restrained anger. Ivy, ever the composed strategist, shot her sister a quick, calming glance, a silent plea to hold back, to not give in. As the hearing commenced, it became glaringly clear that Grayson had no intention of treating them fairly. He interrupted constantly, his sarcasm thinly veiled. At one point he sneered, "Let me guess. You two think you're entitled to special treatment. Maybe you've been watching too much TV." The gallery buzzed with whispers, some shocked, others amused. But the twins were unyielding. Ivy countered his interruptions with calm, factual rebuttals, her voice steady and unshaken. Ebony matched her sister's poise, presenting their case with meticulous detail. Piece by piece, they exposed the landlord's illegal practices, pointing out glaring flaws in the eviction notice. Their evidence painted an irrefutable picture. Grayson, however, wasn't ready to concede. He leaned forward, his voice slicing through the air like a blade. "You two may have fooled others," he sneered, "but not me. I can see right through your type." The words hung in the air, heavy and toxic. The gallery collectively gasped, a sharp, audible reaction to the blatant hostility. Ebony's jaw tightened, but before she could respond, Ivy's hand rested lightly on her arm. Their eyes met, exchanging a silent vow to stay composed. The tension in the room was palpable, a tightly wound string ready to snap. By the time the hearing adjourned, the weight of Grayson's venomous remarks hung over them like a storm cloud. As they stepped into the grand yet cold marble lobby, they barely had a moment to regroup before a reporter pounced, microphone in hand and a camera light blinking ominously. "Miss Coleman, care to comment on Judge Grayson's remarks?" The sugary sweetness of her tone couldn't mask the predatory glint in her eyes. She wasn't after justice, just a soundbite. Ebony stepped forward, her eyes blazing with restrained fury, but Ivy gently stopped her with a firm hand. "Not here," she whispered. Her tone was calm but commanding, a quiet strength that Ebony respected. Reluctantly, Ebony stepped back, leaving the reporter visibly disappointed but unwilling to press further. Before they could exit, deliberate, measured footsteps echoed behind them. They didn't need to turn around to know who it was. Judge Grayson's presence was unmistakable, an oppressive force that seemed to drain the air from the room. Flanked by 2 security guards, he approached with the swagger of a man who believed himself untouchable. "Well, well," he said, his smirk as sharp as a blade. "Running away already? I thought you two had more backbone." Ebony stopped mid-stride, turning slowly. Her expression was calm but resolute, and when she spoke, her voice carried a quiet fury. "We're not running, Judge. We're walking away because this is beneath us." Grayson's smirk deepened, his arrogance radiating. "Beneath you?" He chuckled, the sound grating. "I hope you're ready to lose." This time it was Ivy who stepped forward. Her voice was like ice, calm, sharp, and unyielding. "We're not the ones losing, Judge. Your bias is on full display, and frankly, it's embarrassing for you." For a brief moment his mask slipped. The smirk faltered, replaced by something akin to fear or anger. It was hard to tell. But just as quickly the expression was gone. Straightening his tie, he fired his parting shot. "Watch yourself, young lady. Disrespecting a judge doesn't end well." The twins exchanged a glance, their bond unspoken but undeniable. They walked away, heads held high, leaving Grayson standing alone, a man who had underestimated the wrong women. Ivy held his gaze, her eyes unflinching and steady. "Neither does disrespecting justice, Judge," she said, her voice low but razor-sharp. Without waiting for a retort, the twins turned on their heels and strode away, the rhythmic click of their shoes against the marble floor echoing in perfect synchronization. The courtroom had fallen silent, the weight of Ivy's words hanging in the air like a heavy fog. When they reached the courthouse steps, Ebony's composure cracked like glass under pressure. "Who does he think he is?" she hissed, pacing near the curb, her fists clenched in frustration. "He thinks he's untouchable, Ivy. That smug grin, that tone. He doesn't even know who we are." Her anger was palpable, spilling out like steam from a boiling kettle. Ivy leaned casually against the car, arms crossed, watching her sister with a small, knowing smile. Finally she spoke, her voice measured and deliberate. "Then maybe," she said softly, "it's time we remind him." Ebony froze mid-step, her frustration giving way to curiosity. "What are you thinking?" she asked, her tone cautious but intrigued. Ivy's smile widened, a spark of mischief lighting up her eyes. "Oh, you'll see," she replied cryptically, leaving her sister both puzzled and intrigued. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation days later. Every seat was taken, and the walls were lined with people craning their necks to catch a glimpse of the unfolding drama. News of the twins' first encounter with Judge Grayson had spread like wildfire, turning the case into a spectacle. The public was hungry for more, and the courtroom now felt more like an arena than a place of justice. The air shifted the moment Ebony and Ivy Coleman entered the room. They moved with the same poised confidence as before, a sense of purpose radiating from every step. Between them, Ebony carried a large black duffel bag, its contents undisclosed but clearly significant. The murmurs in the gallery quieted as all eyes locked onto the twins. The atmosphere was taut with tension, an electric current running through the room that made everyone hold their breath. Judge Grayson, perched high on the bench, looked visibly irritated by the heightened attention. His thin smile barely concealed his annoyance as he leaned forward. "Miss Coleman," he began, his tone drenched in sarcasm, "I trust you're ready to continue wasting this court's valuable time." Ivy stepped forward, unshaken by his derision. Her voice sliced through the room like a blade. "Actually, Your Honor, we'd like to submit new evidence." Grayson's eyebrow arched skeptically, his irritation deepening. "New evidence," he echoed, his tone dripping with disbelief. "And what exactly might that be?" Ebony unzipped the duffel bag with deliberate precision, the room going so silent that even the sound of the zipper seemed deafening. From within, she produced a meticulously organized stack of documents, glossy photographs, and a tablet. "This," she said firmly, placing the items on the defense table, "and this." The gallery collectively leaned forward, curiosity practically radiating off the crowd. The court clerk approached, taking the tablet and connecting it to the courtroom's projector. Within moments, the screen at the front of the room flickered to life. The first clip silenced the room entirely. It showed Ebony and Ivy in full U.S. Army tactical gear, leading a high-stakes training exercise with precision and authority. The footage transitioned to scenes of the twins coordinating humanitarian missions in disaster-stricken areas, their uniforms coated in dirt and sweat but their determination unshaken. Another clip showcased them instructing soldiers in advanced combat techniques, their commands firm and unwavering. The murmurs in the gallery quickly turned into a wave of whispers. Even the landlord, who had been watching smugly from the plaintiff's table, now seemed visibly unsettled. Judge Grayson, however, was the most affected. His face lost its color, and for a fleeting moment, the carefully maintained mask of superiority slipped. Ebony's voice broke through the silence, cold and unrelenting. "You failed to do your homework, Judge," she said, her gaze locking onto his. "We've served this country in ways you can't even begin to imagine. And now we're serving justice, starting with you." Grayson opened his mouth, likely to fire back a retort, but Ivy stepped in, holding up a folder with practiced poise. "That's not all," she added, her tone icy yet controlled. "We've also uncovered evidence that your star witness, the landlord, has been falsifying documents and engaging in blatant racial discrimination through his rental policies." She turned her gaze toward the landlord's lawyer, her expression sharp enough to draw blood. "Care to explain that?" she asked, her words a challenge and a warning rolled into one. The lawyer stammered, fumbling for a coherent response, but Ivy didn't give him the chance. "We have receipts," literally, she continued, flipping open the folder to reveal damning paperwork. Bank transfers, forged notices, and a carefully documented trail of the landlord's unlawful activities were laid bare for everyone to see. The gallery erupted into a cacophony of gasps and whispers, the weight of the revelations sending shockwaves through the room. Grayson slammed his gavel down with force, his voice trembling slightly as he barked, "That's enough." But it was clear that the authority he once wielded was slipping away. The gallery no longer paid him any mind. They were too absorbed in the spectacle unfolding before them. The tension reached its peak, and the next words from the judge's mouth were a reluctant but unavoidable admission. "I am recusing myself from this case," he announced, his voice flat. It was a public acknowledgement of defeat, a devastating blow to his carefully curated image. The landlord, meanwhile, sat frozen, his face pale as the gravity of potential criminal charges loomed over him. As the twins exited the courthouse, the crowd outside erupted into cheers. Reporters swarmed, cameras flashing like fireworks, but Ebony and Ivy ignored the commotion, their focus unshaken. As they reached their car, Ebony allowed herself a rare smirk. "He'll think twice before underestimating anyone again," she said, tossing the duffel bag into the trunk. Ivy returned the smile, her eyes gleaming with quiet satisfaction. "And if he doesn't," she said calmly, "we'll be here to remind him."